So one of the clauses that we put in a lot of our trusts is a clause that gives a child the right to purchase the property from the parent for some, percentage. And usually it's maybe 97% of the value of that property. Why? Because they're not paying a realtor for this transaction. So we're giving them a little discount, but not a huge discount. And if that child doesn't want it, then oftentimes we'll give the other child the right to purchase the property, and so on. Maybe there's three kids who have the right to buy it. If none of them want to do it, then that's fine. Then the property can be sold, or all kids' names can go on the title. So all the options are still there. But the reason why we specifically give one child and then another child the right to purchase has to do with property taxes and how the county looks at property taxes. Okay, so there is a tax benefit called the parent-child exclusion, and that tax benefit after 2021, the only property that's available on is the parent's primary residence. So if this were mom or dad's primary residence when they passed, then the children have the right to keep the property tax rate, but only if they make it their primary residence and only if they move into the property. So what will often happen if we don't put this type of clause in is one child will, the trust says kids get equal shares. And in order to keep things fair, one child will get a mortgage against the property and they will buy out the other sibling. So, and if they do that, the county looks at the transaction and the county says, I see what's going on here. You inherited part of the property from your parent and the other part you purchased from your sibling. Well, there's no sibling to sibling transfer exclusion. So that portion of the transaction ends up getting reassessed and you lose the tax benefit on that portion. So to avoid that, the simple way to do it is to give the child the right to purchase it from the parent's trust. So if they buy it from the parent's trust, then the county says, exact same transaction that we just talked about, but now it's all coming from the parent's trust. So we're not going to reassess you. And if you think about, post death of a parent, oftentimes one child wants to live in the home, the other child wants cash. And so this allows that to happen in a way that avoids property tax reassessment. And then oftentimes we give the other child the same right if that child doesn't want it. So why not just say any child has the right to purchase the property? Well, the problem with that is that it looks a little bit too much like equal shares to all the kids. So that's the reason why we make clients, as they're working with us, figure out, okay, which child is going to be the first child to have this option and which child is going to be the second child. And if there's more than two, who's next after that. So the idea is not to pick favorites, it's really to think about who's more likely to want this versus another child. Sometimes they'll do it in age order, sometimes they'll do it based on the child who they think is going to want to live in the house. Maybe the other child already has a house. So, but the idea is we want to preserve that parent-child exclusion and the right to have it. So how big a deal is this? Why do we make such a big deal about it? The property tax benefit of a child being able to keep the parent's rate. So after 2021, the counties have said we'll give you up to $1 million of tax benefit. So on your assessed value, we'll add $1 million to that. And that value ends up being about $12,000 a year in property tax savings. So it's a big deal, at least in my mind, that's a big deal. So, so anyway, hopefully that explains why we do it. If you have a trust that has that weird language in it about being able to buy the property, now you know what's going on there. It has to do with property tax. And the, that's it. All right, thanks.